Chapter 9 of Thunder Cave. On the airplane, I studied my Swahili book. Most Kenyans speak 3 languages, their tribal tongue, English, and Swahili. Swahili spread from the east coast of Kenya to the interior during the slave trade. I read that even though Kenyans spoke English, they appreciate it when you try to speak Swahili, which was the unofficial language of the country. I had very little money and a bike painted like a zebra. Other than this, things were perfect because the airplane was on its final approach to the Kenyatta International Airport. I have arrived. A blast of dry heat hit me as I stepped into the corridor leading to the terminal. Inside, I got into the short customs line. Having traveled internationally a couple of times with my mom, I knew what to expect. Passport, the uniformed custom official said. I handed him my passport. He looked at the photo, then back at me, then back at the photo. He checked the visa. Tourist. He was all business and not very friendly. Yes, I said. Your tickets? I handed him my airline tickets. He scrutinized these very carefully. You have not booked a return flight? No, I said. How long will you be here? I'm not sure, I said. Your visa is good for 3 months. I know. You are young. I'm meeting my father, I said. I was about to give him the bogus letter when he handed my ticket and passport back and waved me to the baggage carousel. I felt relieved. I found my panniers in the cardboard box with my bike in it. With some difficulty, I pushed them over to the baggage line. The 3 people in front of me were moved through with baggage checked very quickly. Passport, the other uniformed customs agent, about as friendly as the first one. He looked at my passport and then handed it back. What's in the box? My bicycle. He looked mildly surprised. Open it. I tore the cardboard away and my bike helmet fell out and skidded across the floor. I heard laughter behind me and turned. You dropped something. A tourist with a big grin on his face held my helmet out to me. I was very embarrassed. Why hadn't Tall taken his nap? I took the helmet and turned back. There we were now, 2 customs agents looking at my bike. Excuse me. There were now 2 custom agents looking at my bike. They were laughing and speaking Swahili. So much for breezing through customs. They'd be talking about this for a week. What is the bicycle for? The customs agent asked. For riding, I said. A bush bike? This got a big laugh from everyone except me. Sort of, I said. Another agent came over, obviously the man in charge. He looked at the bike, then at me, then at the other agents. He said something in Swahili and they stopped smiling. You are to follow him, one of the agents said. This was not going the way I wanted. I was in trouble. I put the panniers back on the box of the bike and pushed it behind the unsmiling man in charge. He led me to a small office, and when we got inside, he shut the door behind us. Passport and ticket, he said. As he scrutinized them, I nervously looked around the room. It was painted institutional green, and there was nothing in it except a long table. Your business in Kenya? I'm here to see my father, I said with more confidence than I felt. And who is your father? Dr. Robert Lanza, I said, emphasizing the doctor, hoping that it would impress him. He didn't look impressed. Where is he? He'll be here in a couple days, I lied. He stared at me, and I tried to stare back at him, but without much success. Where is he? He repeated. He's in the bush, I said. He's a field biologist for the Wildlife Research Institute. I see, he said. Why isn't he here to meet you? He had things to take care of in the field, I said. I'll wait for him at the hotel. Which hotel? I fumbled a slip of paper out of my pocket. The travel agent had given me a name of a reasonably priced hotel in Nairobi. I figured that I would need to spend a night there in order to rest after the long flight. The Mara, I said. I see. He stared at me again. I felt sweat pouring down my neck, soaking my shirt. He'll meet me at the hotel, I said. You said that. They relish making you squirm with their squirts of power. I felt like a worm in a frying pan. "What's in the bags?" "Just my stuff." "Open them and put the contents on the table." I took everything out and spread it on the table. "Now your pockets," he said. I pulled out my pocket knife, wallets, matches, and the kachina figure. "What's this?" he asked, picking up the kachina. "It's called a kachina," I said, "from the Hopi Indian tribe of America." "It looks like a doll," he said. "You are American Indian?" "Half," I said. "My father's full-blooded Hopi." "What is the doll for?" "My grandfather wanted me to give it to my father." Uninterested, he gave the kachina back to me and pointed to the packages of food. "And these?" "Freeze-dried food," I said. He nodded and took my knife and opened a package of beef stroganoff. "This is food?" "You add boiling water." He put his finger in the open package and tasted it. "You cannot bring food into Kenya," he said. Great, I thought. People are starving to death, but you can't bring food into Kenya. One of the reasons I brought food was so I wouldn't be taking food from those who need it, I said. Ignoring my noble reasoning, he took another taste. "And these others?" "Food," I said. "Food is not allowed to be brought in," he repeated. I was going to object again, but then I thought better of it. He picked up all the food packages and put them to the side, then proceeded to look through the rest of my gear. When he was finished, he said, "You may put your things back, but not the food." He stared at me for a moment, getting in one final squirt, then said, "You may go." He watched while I hurriedly loaded the panniers. I looked at him again before I left. "I hope you enjoy your visit to Kenya," he said. "I hope so too." I said nothing, and left the room pushing my bike. I wheeled the bike through the airport amid laughter and grins, but I was now too relieved to be embarrassed. They had taken the food, but I had made it through. Getting into Kenya was the last official obstacle. All I had to do now was find my father. On the way out, I stopped at the currency booth and exchanged my $150 for over 1,000 shillings. When I got outside, I was accosted by several men offering me rides to the city in their taxis. My original plan was to ride my bike into the city, but the long flight, and hassle and customs changed that. All I wanted to do was get to the hotel and sleep. I agreed on a price with one of the cabbies. We figured out a way to tie the bike on the back and left the airport. The road to Nairobi was jammed with cars, trucks, buses, and motorcycles. I sat in the back looking out the window as the cab driver maneuvered his car expertly through the snarl of traffic. It wasn't much different from being on a road in the U.S., except there were more Land Rovers and Toyota Land Cruisers, and the cars were older. Outside the city, we passed an area that was covered with tin roof shanties and tents for as far as I could see. I asked the driver what it was. "Refugees," he said. "They come here because of the drought, but there is nothing for them here." A large group of children sat on the side of the road staring blankly at the passing cars. They were very thin and their clothes were little more than rags. I'd seen famine victims on television, but it was nothing like seeing them in person. Even from the taxi, I could see their suffering. The traffic got worse when we entered the city. At one point, my driver jumped out of the car and started yelling at the driver in front of him. It didn't make any sense because the driver in front was bumper to bumper with the car in front of him, and so on and so on down the line. After he pushed the other drivers around for a few moments, he got back into the car as if nothing had happened. "It is the same every day," he said. I hadn't set foot in the city and I already wanted to leave. The sidewalks were full of people. It looked like New York, except that people weren't walking. They were simply standing on the sidewalks, talking to each other and looking at traffic. "What are all these people doing?" The driver didn't seem to understand. I tried again. "Why are they just standing around?" "Nothing else to do," he said. "What about work?" He laughed. "There are no jobs in Nairobi." A few minutes later, we pulled up in front of the hotel. He untied my bike, I paid him, then walked inside. The hotel clerk behind the front desk stared at my bike. I ignored his reaction and told him that I wanted a room for the night. He took my money and handed me a key. "Your room is on the second floor," he said, pointing to the left. "The stairs are over there." "Thanks," I said. I pushed my bike through the lobby. At one time, the hotel had probably been very nice, but it was obvious that nothing had been done to it in a long time. The wallpaper was yellow with age, and the ceiling was missing plaster in spots. Several worn chairs and sofas were scattered in front of an old black and white television set. The volume was on loud, and the fuzzy picture flickered. I bounced my bike up the stairs to the second floor and found my room. There wasn't much to it. An old double bed, a small desk, a window, and a bathroom. It wasn't air-conditioned, but I didn't care. I leaned my bike against the wall, stripped off my clothes, and got into the shower. There was hardly any pressure, and the water smelled like sulfur, but it felt like a cool spring to me. When I finished, I lay down on the bed and immediately fell asleep. The room was dark when I woke up, and for a moment I didn't know where I was. I lay there getting my bearings and wondered how long I'd slept. I sat up and turned on the lamp next to my bed. My bike was leaning against the opposite wall. My room was stiflingly hot. I got out of bed and with some effort managed to get the window open. A cool breeze blew in. Along with the sound of cars and people's voices, the street below was even more crowded than it had been during the day. When I went down to the lobby, a different clerk stood behind the counter reading a newspaper. "Excuse me," I said. He put down the paper and seemed surprised that the hotel had a guest. "Yes," he said. "May I help you?" "I'm looking for canned food." "Canned?" "Yeah, like soup and meat in cans." He looked confused. The afternoon clerk seemed to have better understanding of English. "Food," I said, "in cans." "I understand food," he said. "Preserved food in cans." He thought for another moment. "Do you mean tinned food?" "Yeah, right," I said. "We have no tinned food here," he said. "I know," I said. "Where's the nearest grocery store?" "For tinned food?" "Yes." 2 miles away on the street to the left. "Asante," I said, which is Swahili for thank you. I went back to my room and got my bike. As I was crossing the lobby with it, the clerk stopped me. "Where are you going?" he said. "To get tinned food," I said. No, he said. "You must not go out now. It is not safe now." "But I'm leaving town in the morning." What time does the store open?" "At 8. "Too late," I said. "I'll be leaving at sunrise, and I need to take food with me." "It's not safe." "I'll be all right." He shrugged his shoulders and went back to his newspaper. I rode down the street, passing cinemas, restaurants, hotels, and nightclubs. It was surprisingly cool, and I wished that I had brought my jacket. People stared at my bike and pointed at me as I rode by. I hoped the store had paint. I didn't need all this attention. Asante, tall.